My name is Dave Quam. I'm the Minnesota Chapter Director of the Forest Fire Lookout Association and an old Camp Wabanakwa staff member back in the late 50s. And I feel it's my turn to do something for other camps, and being Wabanakwa's not here, but Camp Wilderness is. We started the process of trying to get a fire tower moved here in 2003, and it finally happened in 2007. And this video is the ribbon cutting ceremony for the grand opening of the fire tower. An endeavor that was long in coming, but now made possible by Steve Inkle and Aaron Inkle of Diversified Builders. This is a scaled-down version of the firefinder with the alidade in the middle, the part that you turn to aim at the smoke and get his compass reading. We want the Boy Scouts to find out what it's all about to work in a fire tower of the past. It's June 30th at 10 o'clock in the morning, and the ribbon cutting ceremony is to start at 10:30. This is Brad Olson, the program director for Camp Wilderness, getting the ribbon in place. And while he's doing that, we're going to walk around and see who's here and just listen.
That's right. I figured you do it by skiing down. Skiing down a mountain, just one step at a time. Don't think about the big picture.
He was here in, actually, I think he was mostly a more Wabanakwa.
They survived all the storms this spring,
no problem. It's been getting a lot of attention. Here, they had a stake on.
Is your video camera rolling?
Absolutely.
Drawing of what it can look
Lucky her. Oh yeah, she's going back to nursing school for the retirement.
All right, if I could get all of your guys' attention, please. Mic up.
Can you hear me now? Too bad the cell phone service doesn't work that good out here to do that, huh?
It does on the tower.
Oh, up top it does? Okay. Well, I'd like to welcome all of you guys here to Camp Wilderness today. Today's a very special day for us out here at camp as we dedicate our new fire tower that we have. My name is Brad Olson. I'm the program director for the council. I'm also the reservation director here at the camp. And Camp Wilderness was founded back in 1946. And I'm sure most of you guys know that as well. We have a lot of staff that are here right now, a lot of alumni, people who helped put this fire tower together for us, and also some of you guys who've helped donate the money for it as well. Right now here in the camp, whatever, there's about 300 people running around the camp. They have beautiful weather, just like all of us can enjoy here today. It sounds like the forecast is supposed to be beautiful for the week for the kids in camp. The camp itself, whatever, is used year-round, not only during our summer programs here, but we also offer a lot of programs in the fall and the spring, and also during the winter months as well. The camp has 2 full-time employees, Andy Kitzman, who's our ranger out here, and also Joanne Maston, who is our full-time cook here. So the camp is definitely growing. There's been a lot of great improvements to the camp, and standing right here behind me right now is just one of those many things. So without further ado, I'm going to turn things over to Andy and go from there.
I thought I might take just a minute and talk about how we got to this point. It was probably 4 or 5 years ago. Squirrely little guy rolled into camp in a Jeep, introduced himself as David Quam. That's the guy over here. You might recognize the squirrely part. And he said, I'm with Forest Fire Lookout Association, and I'm also past Wabanakwa camper and staffer, and I wanted to know if there was any way you guys might be liking to have a fire tower at the camp. And I said, sure, let's talk about it. And before long, David located one up by Pinewood, and I went and checked it out, and we were unable to make that work. It was fairly expensive to take that down and transport it and get it back here and refurbished and back up, and we had to turn that one down, and I thought that was the end of it. And then a couple years ago, Dave said, I think I've got another opportunity for us that may work out well, and Obviously, you know the end result that's standing behind us, but I'm going to let Dave tell the story of how we ended up getting that to that point. But needless to say, there has been a couple people who have been pretty integral in getting that done, and Dave's one of them. And so, Dave, if you want to come up and tell the story about that, I think I'll let you do it. So Dave Quam, folks.
Can't stand these tall guys. They put the microphone too high. Why is it when we go to an event, everybody sits in the back seat? Now we're outside and everybody's 25 feet away from the fire tower and the display. Is it something I said earlier? Or what? I don't understand that. Well, I'm retired and I joined a group called the Forest Fire Lookout Association, which is a group of people around the United States, we number about 1,000, that tries to preserve fire towers and keep them for the next generation, even though there's still a lot in use. When we tried to move the Pinewood Fire Tower to the camp, for a number of reasons, it just was impossible. And then I found out from the DOT that this fire tower on the east side of Lake Bemidji was going to become available. It was presently being used as a radio tower. So I made some phone calls, sent some emails, and the bottom line is I set it up so the DOT said, we'll take it down for you as part of the contract, and you have to haul it away. That's the easy part, but hauling it away is the hard part, and I didn't know how to do that. For some reason, Steve Inkle's name came to me as a scoutmaster that was heavily involved in scouting. So I went and knocked on Steve's door, and I said, Steve, how do you feel about moving a fire tower to Camp Wilderness? He spun around in his chair and looked at me. Oh, by the way, my name is Dave Quam. Got to get the important things first. He says, I think we can do that. Just like that, I think we can do that. And it caught me by surprise. I was expecting no. I didn't know what to say next. I said, I'll make the arrangements to get it down, and I'll fill you in. I'll keep you on the email list and so you know what's going on. Well, the day came, and I had to be out of town. And the DOT laid the fire tower down. They took the first top 20 feet off, and they laid the largest part down on a lowboy provided by Mr. Steve Inkle of Diversified Builders. I didn't see that part, or I would have photographed it and filmed it. They brought it over to Industrial Park, where it sat for most of the summer, and then Aaron, or somebody, Steve's son, brought the upper 20 feet to the scout camp here. And during that summer, Andy worked plugging the holes from the bullet holes by welding them shut and painting it and putting steps on there. Throughout the summer, Scoutmasters then put the steps and platforms. Andy made arrangements to get, what was the wood called again? Tamarack wood. It's kind of wood, if you don't drill a hole in it in the first 6 months, you're not going to drill a hole in it. So you got to put it up while it's fresh. So all summer, Scoutmasters worked on the tower laying on the ground. And then later in August, Steve, Aaron, Ken, some guys from his facility came out, and we picked the fire tower up, which was a challenge because the first time they picked it up, the device picking it up went over. The center of gravity was just too far. They got a way figured out. We photographed it, and Chad has got some photos up on here of taking the tower out here. Now, we brought it down the road, and everybody had to steer, which is kind of like the steering an elephant, because it's got so much weight, to get around the building so we didn't wipe out the mess hall and the shop on the way over here. But we got it here. Now, we didn't put up the last 20 feet. It was just way too much work. So this is 20 feet short than what it actually was. It's 80 feet right now. It used to be 100. But 80 feet was fine. How do we know that? Again, Steve Inkle brought out his cherry picker, and we all went up to see how far we could see it, 60 feet. And the trees were in the way, so we know we had to go up to 80 feet, which added a lot more work to it. Then later in the fall, Andy dug out the footings. Steve made the boxes at his facility in Bemidji, and we came out here and the guys put the boxes together. They poured the concrete. The Boy Scouts paid for the concrete and the 8-foot long bolts that had to go in here. Finally, they picked up the bottom section, put it over the fence that Andy had erected, and dropped it into place. The bolts fit almost perfectly. Had to do a little juggling to get the thing to go on the bolts, and it snapped into place. And then we put up the next big section, which is on the pictures, and we wanted to put the final top 20 feet on, But you have to remember that 20-foot section hanging up in the air on a crane is a big kite. And there's no way you're going to control this thing coming into you, let alone get a bolt in it. So we put it back on the ground, came out the next morning, thank goodness there was no wind. We brought it up, we lowered it on there. We each stood on a corner with a bolt ready to go. I looked down 70 feet to the ground. I'm 69 years old. I said, why am I doing this? I'm out of my mind, hanging on a strap, trying to get a bolt to go in the hole. And everybody got their bolt in but me. So it was a struggle with a special punch to get the thing over. The end result is the tower was finally put into place. None of this would have happened if it hadn't have been for Mr. Hinkle and his company. And today, we're honoring Steve for doing what he did for the Boy Scouts. Not only did he get the tower to the camp, but you should know that he made arrangements to have a special campground set up on Cass Lake and got a lease for that campground for the Duluth Boy Scouts for 20 years. It took him a year to do it. I mean, that's, what do you call it? You don't rest until the job is done. And Steve, I thank you, and I want you to come up here because I have something for you. I'll turn the microphone over here a little bit. Squeak, squeak. As the Minnesota chapter director of the Forest Fire Lookout Association, the association is extremely pleased what this gentleman did. And I'm very pleased as an ex-scout camp worker at Camp Wabonaquat to be able to do my part to help a camp out. When I was a kid working at camp, there was this older person working in the warehouse helping the kids out. Now I'm the older person, but I'm not in the warehouse, I'm at the fire tower. Steve, come over a little closer here to me. I want to have you see this plaque. It'll be laying on the table. I want you to look at it, Steve, and I'm going to read it to everybody. It's June 30th, 2008. The Forest Fire Lookout Association honors Steve Inkle and of Diversified Builders and Design of Bemidji, Minnesota. Be it known that Mr. Inkle has devoted a great deal of his time and money to help the Boy Scouts of America. Today's honor and ribbon cutting ceremony is for Mr. Inkle's help in moving the East Bemidji Fire Tower here to Camp Wilderness. Besides bringing a part of history to the camp, this erection of the fire tower now preserves a part of Minnesota's Forest History Center. Steve, thank you very much. We'd like to lay it on the table so people can see it. You have the microphone.
Thank you. I guess I wasn't prepared to speak, but I guess I'm pretty good at it anyways. But recognize a lot of the faces. I've been a scoutmaster out here. Normally this is our week to go to camp, but for this year we actually changed weeks for whatever reason. But I've been coming out here for probably 10 years as a scoutmaster with our troop, and I've enjoyed every minute of it. I've been involved with Camp Wilderness on and off in different projects, some of the shelters and setting all the flagpoles into different campsites and things like that have been some of our little troop projects that we've taken on your work days, and it's been a wonderful experience. So I really want to point out that even though I was the one who said yes and got to write the checks for all my guys and equipment to come out here, really the person who was instrumental in getting this thing erected was my son, who is in the black leather jacket there. And Aaron, you know, because he's my kid, he doesn't have a choice, but anyways, he got to do all the footings, he got to do all the concrete, and he basically got to do all the tear down and erection and modifying it 20 feet shorter than it really is. So he spent quite a bit of time out here last year with Dave and with Andy and with one of my other guys, and they really did an excellent job. I'm glad this thing came together as well as it did. There were a few moments of oh, what do we do now? But for the most part, it went really, really well. So if you get a chance, thank Aaron for all of his help, because
I have something for Aaron.
Oh, you do? Okay. Aaron was really instrumental.
Come here.
So,
On this side, if you would, Aaron. Well, he was. Can you hold this, Steve?
yes.
Aaron was one of those crazy guys hanging off the straps on the tower. He also spent 4 hours almost trying to drill a bunch of holes into steel. And you should have heard the language. It was okay. It was okay. Now, I got my hands crossed here. Steve, I want to give you a fire finder. You get the one with the brass bushings.
Okay.
This is a model of the fire finder used in the fire tower. I have the original one on the pedestal over here. And Aaron, you got to have this to take home. You get the fancy sights on this firefighter. I thank you very much for your labor. I know you didn't have much choice, but you put your heart into it and you pulled it together. It was nice to work with you. Thank you very much, Aaron. Connie, you have something, Connie? Later? Okay. Anybody have any questions? And somebody asked me earlier, and no, the answer is no. It is not a Norwegian bungee jumping tower. It's the wrong shape. Okay, the firefighters are yours. The fire tower is open for climbing. Anybody have anything else? Oh, I'm sorry. Yep, Mark? Brad, Mark? I'll get out of your way here.
You got to raise it back up again, I guess. So. Dave, thank you very much. Steve, Aaron, thank you guys very much as well. Not only were those guys very instrumental in getting this thing all up for us, but there's also a bunch of other people that are here today as well to help keep it going for the future for the camp as well. And at this time, I'd like to call Mark Holtz forward, our Scout Executive for the Northern Lights Council, to come share a few words with us. Mark.
Thank you very much, Brad. What a wonderful program addition to the Northern Lights Council and Camp Wilderness. Dave and Steve and Aaron, thank you so very much. Andy has done just an exceptional job for this. Dave, first of all, would you come forward for 1 second?
Oh, this Dave?
There, that Dave. Sorry about that.
Has to do with my height. I can't hear.
You know, I remember I was at camp. I try to get to camp at least a day a week over the summer to visit with our leaders and our scouts. And Dave was in the dining hall 3 or 4 years ago, and Andy said, "Mark, there's this guy here who wants to get a fire tower here at Camp Wilderness, and isn't it fun when this comes to reality?" You know, in this morning's forum, there was an article about flag etiquette. And part of the article said that if you want to know anything about flag etiquette, ask a Boy Scout. The Boy Scouts have wonderful information about flags and about citizenship. And all we have to do is look here at Camp Wilderness and know that we have 300 kids in camp this week that stand up every morning and salute the flag and say, I pledge allegiance to the flag. And Dave, I'm very, very pleased to present you for your leadership on this project, a respect and honor painting here by Tom Saubert. And this was actually done here at Camp Wilderness. And I hope that this will remind you of the time that you spent here at Camp Wilderness putting together this wonderful fire tower. So thank you so very much, David.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I have one comment to make, and thank you, everybody. Talking about flags, if you're my age, how many people know who Harry Truman is? Oh, this is an old group. The flag over here is a Harry Truman flag. It's hard to tell, but how do you know? It only has 48 stars. Thank you. Thank you.
Once the fire tower was erected, we thought about, well, what are we going to do to make sure that not only the fire tower, but all of Camp Wilderness is taken care of for generations to come. And our Northern Lights Council board over the last number of years has worked real hard to grow the endowment fund of the Northern Lights Council to make sure that kids can have scholarships to go to camp, to make sure that we can maintain and make sure that the upkeep of Camp Wilderness is in place. And so Connie Kempstead, our development director, along with our endowment committee, came up with a campaign called Step into Scouting's Future. And it was a way for individuals and companies to help provide some funding to actually buy a step or buy a landing or buy the crow's nest or buy the weather vane to help step into Scouting's future. And you'll see in the back of the fire tower a kiosk with all of the individuals that have helped to step into Scouting's future by buying or sponsoring a step or a landing or the crow's nest or the weather vane. And we still have steps available if anybody is interested. But those dollars will help to ensure the future of Camp Wilderness and to make sure that young people have the opportunity to go to camp. Also, I'd like to call on Steve Inkle, if I may. Dave has talked an awful lot about what Steve has done, not only for the fire tower, but for the Boy Scouts in general. And we're just really pleased, Steve. What we've done here is we have an endowed camp scholarship in your name that will send one Boy Scout to Camp Wilderness every year forever, called the Steve Inkle Endowed Camp Scholarship for your leadership. Steve, thank you so very, very much.
I was going to say, as being a board member on the Voyageurs Area Council, I know we deal with these struggles all the time, and you know, this is an excellent campaign. I'm wishing you well with selling as many steps as you can. I think we have well over 100 and some steps, don't we, Andy? So you know, you should have a little chance for expansion there, you know, to get all your steps sold. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Steve. And now I think Dave already made the announcement, but the fire tower is open. Thank you so very much. Oh, we have to cut the ribbon. So are we going to come around to this side? All right. She's open.
No, she's open. All right, all right.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you, Steve.
I'll go up with you.
Rick Stern.
Steve Inkle.
Thank you very
How
much.
are you?
All right.
Yep.
Hey, Rick.
Oh, yeah.
You're fast. There you go.
I remember the Smoky Hills one, and that was a ladder.
Can you try it, Connie? I don't know. If I
Hi there, Mark. Long time no see. I'm still around.
One step at a time.
Yeah,
I'm here for
I'm still in Boy Scouts. As I guess as long as we got a troop one cold, I guess I gotta get a new.
Walk around.
Steve, I don't have any neighbors down at Blackfoot. You don't? No, there's nobody down there.
Well, you know, when the picture comes up, that part of it, I turned it over to new leaders, and they wanted to change because kids always complain about not being able to see the fireworks on the 4th of July, which
I'm never going back to Duluth.
I don't know.
Okay.
So,
Go back to school. Summer school.
all these people wanted to change it, and then they never step up to the plate, you know, so we'll be back on this weekend next year, so.
Yeah, it's going well.
We used to climb the Smoky Hills fire tower. It just had a ladder with a hoop around it. I'm Rick Stern from Fargo. And Camp Wilderness has always been very special to our family because my grandfather was one of the founders of Camp Wilderness. Back in 1936, my grandfather and my father were at Isle of Dreams Resort. Remember, 1936 was the hottest summer, I think, on record. And they were just trying to get some relief from the heat. They're in the water, and Grandpa looks over here, and says to my dad, that would be a place for a Boy Scout camp. Grandpa had been one of the founders of scouting in North Dakota, and he went to work with several other people, and they got it done. It took 10 years to do, but it was amazingly inexpensive. But of course, this was a depression, so nobody had any money, but Grandpa was able to, with the help of many others, raise the money to buy this camp. And Grandpa was very involved in scouting up until his death in 1980.
What was his name?
Herman Stern.
Okay.
And that's the dining hall. It's kind of funny, the dining was always important to us, so we funded the dining hall. And I was able to work on staff here at camp, and my brother's been on council boards, and he was on staff, and we both were able to go to the National Jamboree, and scouting has been a very important part in our family's lives. And it's every year when you think camp, they've done everything they can do to make camp terrific. Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Great. Then they come up with something else. It was the Cub Camp. Wow, that completes camp. It can't get any better than this. And then we were here for our family reunion at Isle of Dreams last summer, and I come over here, and I hadn't heard about the Forest Tower. Wow, that is the only thing camp needs to be better. Well, next year they're going to come up with something. This year, it was the welcoming hut, the Andrew Nelson welcoming hut. Another one. That there are just so many people that pick up the torch of this camp. And anybody that's ever been involved with this camp has a special feeling about this place. And it's obvious, it's maintained and cared for so lovingly. This is my dad, Ed Stern, who grew up, well, no, you were grown when we got to camp, but spent a lot of time here at camp.
Yeah, I guess I was.
It took about a year for the whole process to happen. The tower had to be removed from its site on the east side of Lake Bemidji, stored over Diversified Builders' construction lot in the industrial zone, and eventually hauled over in sections to the scout camp, where Aaron did most of the work. Ranger Andy had scoutmasters replacing steps and platforms while the tower was laying on its side, which had made it easy to get at rather than have it. This is Andy here. Rather than have it standing up. Some pieces were welded. Andy had to put the cage on the top so people wouldn't fall out of the window and paint everything. It took a long time, but finally Camp Wilderness has its own fire tower. As of July of 2012, there's a new building adjacent to the Quartermaster building and the old Scout store. Now it's a combination of Scout store, Quartermaster, and a museum, of which the fire tower will be depicted and how it functions. When you're at the camp, stop in to look at these photographs and you'll have some idea of what was done just to get this tower into place.